The Mafia underworld is a realm dominated by ruthless men, where power is seized through fear and loyalty is earned through blood. In this unforgiving landscape, one woman rose to become the most feared boss of the Mafia. Today, we're diving into the gripping story of how one woman rose to become the most feared female boss in Mafia history. From being the nation's sweetheart to commanding respect and fear in a male-dominated underworld, her journey is one of cunning, power, and relentless ambition. Stay tuned as we unravel the secrets, betrayals, and ruthless strategies that propelled her to the top of the criminal empire. The birth of a beauty. Assunta Maresca was born on January 19, 1935 in Castellammare di Stabia, a town just south of Naples in the Campania region. As the only daughter in her family, she grew up with 4 brothers. Her father, Alberto Maresca, was a notorious smuggler, and her uncle, Vincenzo Maresca, was a well-known figure in the local Camorra, sentenced to 7 years in prison for the killing of his brother Gerardo. The Maresca family finally earned the nickname Lightning Knives due to their expertise with switchblades and made a fortune through cigarette smuggling. Despite the rough and dangerous environment, Assunta stood out for her petite stature and beauty. This earned her the nickname Pepetta, which means little doll. At the age of 19, she captured local attention by winning a beauty contest, earning the title of Miss Rovegliano, representing a suburban village near Naples. Assunta Maresca caught the eye of several suitors, including a wealthy and influential Camorra boss from Palma Campania. Another admirer was Pasquale Simonetti, known as Pasquale Nola. Pasquale worked in the fruit and vegetable market in Naples and was involved in smuggling. The two fell in love, and on April 27, 1955, they tied the knot. A tale of revenge. Pasquale's rising style and power didn't sit well with other Camorristi. On July 16, 1955, in the heart of Naples, he was gunned down by Gaetano Orlando, a hitman hired by rival Camorrista Antonio Esposito. Pepetta, 6 months pregnant, was devastated by her husband's murder. Convinced that the police knew the killer but weren't taking action, she decided to take matters into her own hands. On August 4, 1955, Pepetta, along with her younger brother Ciro, drove to Naples. Upon encountering Esposito, she pulled a Smith & Wesson .38 from her handbag and, holding it with both hands as if she was afraid she would miss, fired 29 bullets, ending him in broad daylight. This led to her arrest on October 14th of that same year. Her trial began in April 1959 at the Court of Assizes in Naples, drawing international attention. During the trial, she boldly declared, "I would do it again," sparking cheers from the courtroom. One newspaper even dubbed her the Diva of Crime. For the first time, the court in Naples allowed microphones so the crowds could hear the proceedings. The public fell in love with the fearless diva who would go to great lengths to avenge the man she loved. She received marriage proposals from admirers, and a musician composed a song in her honor, La Legge d'Onore, the Law of Honor. Despite the public fascination, Pepetta was sentenced to 18 years in prison, which was later lowered to 13 years and 4 months by the Court of Appeal. Life in prison. While Pepetta was in prison for killing her first husband's assassin, her guards had their hands full, managing the many suitors clamoring to visit her. Songs and words of poetry were written about this fearless woman, and she enjoyed the attention, which she said helped her pass the time. During her incarceration, Pepetta gave birth to her son Pasquale, named after her late husband, and was allowed to keep him in her cell until he turned 4. Raising a child in the harsh environment of Poggio Reale prison granted Pepetta certain privileges that other inmates didn't have, although the experience was far from enjoyable. Unlike the general female inmates who lived in large dormitory-style rooms with triple bunk beds and a single toilet, incarcerated mothers had single or double occupancy cells with small wooden boxes beside their beds for their babies. Pasqualino had a few toys and books, and Pepetta could take him out to the prison playground once or twice a day. Pasqualino's first friends were the children of other inmates, many of whom were serving short sentences for being accomplices or accessories to crimes committed by their men. These women didn't forget Pepetta after their release and often smuggled in treats like local white wine and truffles when they visited her. As a rare female inmate in the 1950s locked up for murder, Pepetta's long sentence gave her seniority, and her crime garnered respect among the other inmates. Pepetta had avenged her husband's death, a feat none of the other women could claim. In the prison hierarchy, she was both the top student and the class bully. The other inmates did her bidding, changed Pasqualino's diapers during recreation time, and babysat when she needed a break. Stories of her time in prison varied widely from her own accounts, as she often chose to recant her story in remarkable ways. However, certain facts were undisputed. During her incarceration, she received numerous wedding proposals and gifts from camorristi who wanted to align themselves with her. Inside the prison, Pupetta established a system similar to her late husband's. She dispensed favors to inmates in exchange for information from their visitors about the outside world, which she then passed on to favorable clansmen. Post-release from prison. Upon her release from prison, Pupetta was eager to start a new chapter in her life, describing it as a rebirth. She actively sought out the press, gave numerous interviews to announce her return, and even courted various directors in an attempt to launch a film career. In these interviews, she criticized the prison system and its treatment of inmates despite having received special privileges during her final years behind bars. Although she had intended to live a cleaner life upon her release, rehabilitation wasn't part of her new beginning. She felt no remorse for the murder she committed and has always maintained that she would do it again, even in her 80s. Had she not killed Antonio Esposito, she might have been forced into an arranged marriage with an associate and faded into obscurity as just another camorristi wife. Pupetta wanted a different legacy. In the 1950s, society did not demand that she avenge her husband's death, and without the existence of social media, she acted in a vacuum and could have easily gotten away with the murder. However, she chose to take a stand, seeking to carve out a unique identity and a legacy that set her apart from others in her world. Pupetta was an early influencer in her own right. She understood that the image of a bold mafia woman would carry weight in the outside world, even if she lacked real organizational power. Alliance with a mafia boss. A few years after her release in 1965, a woman she had met in prison arranged a blind date with Umberto Amaturo, a Camorra underboss with dark wavy hair and impeccably groomed sideburns. Known for his use of a straight razor, both for grooming and rumored acts of violence, Umberto was not her beloved Pasqualone, but he was sexy, and after years in prison, Pupetta was lonely. More importantly, he held a significant position in the Camorra, ensuring that she wouldn't lose status by being with him. However, his nickname Opazzo, which meant the crazy one, hinted at future troubles, but Pupetta realized this a little too late. Umberto managed the Camorra's emerging cocaine routes between South America and Italy and was fluent in Spanish. He had a short temper that often led to violent outbursts against Pupetta and her son Pasqualino, who had moved back in with her after her release from prison. Umberto's criminal career began as a Waione, a street kid who pickpocketed tourists and acted as a lookout for bigger criminals. His deviant behavior caught the attention of more seasoned men, and he quickly climbed the criminal ladder, becoming a large-scale cigarette trafficker for the Camorra in the early 1960s. Umberto and Pupetta hit it off immediately. A few months into their relationship, Pupetta, then 31, became pregnant with twins. Shortly after Antonella and Roberto were born, Umberto was arrested in Naples alongside the Camorra's top man, who oversaw various emerging criminal enterprises in northern Italy. They were charged with smuggling cocaine from Latin America using the diplomatic mail pouch of Panama's consulate in Milan. During the trial, Umberto, with the help of the Camorra-friendly forensic psychiatrist Aldo Semerari, faked several health conditions, including insanity. Thanks to this scheme, Umberto avoided normal jail time and was sent to a psychiatric hospital instead, from which he quickly escaped. Although Pupetta and Umberto never married, they worked hard to advance their joint criminal interests. In November 1967, the crime diva was convicted of receiving stolen merchandise when 100 shirts mysteriously arrived at her newly opened clothing shop in Naples without an invoice or purchase order, documents that would have required her to pay taxes. She was acquitted of delinquent activity and never got to serve her 3-month sentence. Throughout the late 1960s and early 1970s, she was frequently investigated and often found herself on the periphery of various crimes. However, trouble was stewing. Midlife turmoil. As Pasqualino, Pupetta's firstborn, reached his teens, tension grew in the household. He was handsome and built like his robust father, and Pupetta often reminisced about her late husband when her son acted a certain way or smiled just so. Pasqualino started to rebel, competing with Umberto, who resented the persistent reminder of Pupetta's past life. Pasqualino's temperament didn't help matters either, and he often lashed out, declaring that Umberto could never replace his dead father, a man Pasqualino had never met. The tension boiled over when Pasqualino started verbally confronting Umberto and eventually threatened to avenge his father's death, a task his mother had already handled. So Umberto decided to shut him up for good. In 1972, just a couple of days after Pasqualino's 18th birthday, Umberto set up a meeting with him under the guise of a truce, offering to help him develop contacts within the Camorra's construction arm. They planned to meet at a construction site in Naples where a new toll bypass was being built. However, Pasqualino was never seen again after that day, in disappearance with all the markings of a lupara bianca, a mafia-style slaying carried out with such precision that no trace of the body is ever found. Popetta suspected foul play and believed that her lover had buried her son in cement at the construction site, but there was no evidence to use against Umberto. Despite her assumptions, she and Umberto forged a criminal partnership that eventually led to their joint conviction for the killing of Aldo Semerari, the shady psychiatrist who had previously helped Umberto fake his mental illness to escape prison. Semerari vanished suspiciously from the Royal Hotel in Naples in March of 1982. His decapitated body was found a week later in the back of a burned car while his head was placed in the front seat. He had been tortured with broken bones and cuts and was hung upside down to bleed out, likely while still alive, a cruel touch meant as a warning to others. The next day, his personal assistant, Fiorella Carrara, was found dead in her home with a gun stuffed in her mouth. Her passing was ruled a suicide, even though her fingerprints were absent on the gun. The police initially suspected Semerari's political connection, but the investigation soon shifted to Popetta and Umberto as primary suspects. However, Popetta adamantly denied any role in Semerari's murder and decapitation, though she described Carrara as a puttana and Semerari as a traitor for helping their rival, Raffaele Cutolo. This highlighted the extent to which she and Umberto had a motive to kill him. Betrayal is an unforgivable sin in the Mafia, a rule that Umberto failed to follow when he later ratted out Popetta to the law. Despite her fame, her life was far from glamorous. Her oldest son vanished without a trace in his early 20s, and the father of her twins betrayed her before fleeing to South America. Unrepentant to the end of her life at the age of 87, Popetta reportedly said, "I sleep easily at night. I have no fear of dying." Want more stories from the underworld? Subscribe to the channel and ring the bell to get updated on fresh content.